So now we got some news to talk about. Do we want to go? We'll go into the feature story. I guess this is new to both of us, to both of our realms. One of the bands that we both like to listen to, we're going to go see them in concert when this tour kicks off. The Garden, they released their new album, HORSESHIT on Route 66. Came out last Friday, and it was really good. I really liked it. What were your thoughts?
Well, I'll say this. We are both huge garden heads.
Gardeners.
We're huge gardeners. That's what they call their fan base. And we live in Southern California. They're from Southern California. But we are such big fans that we are flying to see them. So that's where we'll be going. But okay, my thoughts on the album. You go first.
Okay. I actually read this Esquire piece that interviewed both of them, and it kind of gave a little bit more context about the album. And this doesn't really change my opinion on anything except for one of the tracks that I initially wasn't a huge fan of, but ended up liking a little bit more. But basically, they were just trying to channel their interest in like the supernatural, which is very apparent on their first track, the Haunted House on Zillow. And I don't know. I guess my initial thoughts were that I really, really liked the album. The first album that I jumped on board with was Kiss My Super Bowl Ring from 2020. I only listened to that album because Ariel Pink was on it. And, at first I was like, I cannot listen to this. There's just, it's too heavy. There are certain parts of the songs that sound like they're normal songs, but then it just gets way too heavy. But then I was like, I'll listen to it again and maybe my thoughts on it will change. And it eventually did. I ended up liking the album quite a bit. And then I listened to their older stuff, which is not heavy at all. And so it is kind of weird how Kiss My Super Bowl Ring was randomly just a very heavy album. And this album is also pretty heavy, but I feel like they have done a much better job at kind of transitioning between like their signature sound and then just this like much more heavier punk sound. So I actually in my notes here said that the Haunted House on Zillow, I think that is my favorite opening track on any of their albums.
That's a good take.
And the thing I was just talking about, blending the super abrasive sound and then like their regular sound, I think they do a really good job on that with the second track, OC93. Third track, I said was my least favorite song on the album, but it is what it is. Fright Yard or Freet Yard
or Freight Yard.
Freight Yard. I put was their most normie friendly track. And it was I guess it was like a promising single. That was the first single that they released on the new album. And I thought, oh, wow, maybe this is, are they like going back to like Mirror Might Steal Your Charm or Haha? Like, are they dialing it back a little bit? But then the second single that they released, I believe was the Orange County Punk Rock Legend.
Yeah.
And, at the beginning of that song, I was thinking like, okay, wow, I guess they're really they're scrapping all of their last album. But then, when the vocals kick in, it's like, okay, cool. I like this a lot. I liked how different that song was. And I don't know.
Orange County Punk Rock Legend.
Yeah.
So that was my favorite song on the album. I don't know. I like and I'm going to sound stupid because I don't know like music terminology, but I like almost like the Sugar Ray, like the.
Okay, did you read that article?
No. That's just what it reminded me of.
Okay,
I haven't read anything.
That's what the guy in the article said. And they were saying that like I guess Wyatt, he's the one who plays guitar on it. He said that he was like listening to Sugar Ray probably around the time they were recording and said that he likes them. And so he was like, I didn't intend on it sounding like Sugar Ray, but I guess that's just the sound that came of it. But yeah, it totally does sound like that. That's what it did remind me of some like 90s, I guess, punk music, which I guess was prominent in Orange County in the 90s. But yeah, sorry, keep going.
No. So yeah, I liked that element to it. By the way, I like Sugar Ray. Sugar Ray is like one of those groups that got like commercial success and then everybody started shitting on them, but I think they've got some like fun pop punk songs. I don't know. But so yeah, that's probably my favorite one. I like a lot more the screaming stuff or the shouting, I guess, if you want to call it that, like that they've introduced in the last few ones. Because the Ariel Pink one, I mean, you're going to remember that better than me, but which track was that on?
Well, it was in the track that had Ariel Pink was Lowrider Slug, and the screaming was in pretty much every single track. And the first track, it starts off, I don't remember what the name of the track is, A Clench to Stay Awake. it's like a very slow and like somber song, and then it kind of picks up a little bit, and then it just like cranks all the way up, and they just like go full screamo before the song even ends. And then the second track starts with the continuation of that screamo, and then the rest of the album is a little all over the place, but it's still good. I do really like it. It just took me like a few listens for it to finally kind of click for me. And then it was much easier for me to listen to their earlier albums just because it was, wasn't as screamo-y. But I definitely am very glad that they embraced that sound for this album and didn't shy away from it. And I feel like that's like why I like them so much, because I think you can always rely on them to just make whatever they're going to make. And it doesn't seem like they're going to try to make a sound that everyone's going to enjoy or everyone's going to like. And so I feel like those are the types of bands that like I kind of gravitate towards.
Yeah. Well, I'll have a little bit more analysis. Let me run through the songs because actually I was going to talk about all the same songs you brought up. I liked the opening, Haunted House on Zillow. I like the spooky vibes to it. And then OC93 is probably my second favorite track. And then the third track, Puerta de Limosina, was probably my least favorite, but then on the second time around, I liked it a lot more. And then even what you said about Freight Yard, I agree. It's like more palatable. It's like a less punk and less avant-garde than some of their other stuff is. So all around, I love the album. So it is short though. It is 24 minutes.
It is.
But
I also, I forgot my favorite track is track 6. What else could I be but a jester? That's definitely my favorite song on the album.
The Garden has like all the same sensibilities as me because they just have like all the clown stuff, and I love clowns. And now they're going for a spooky vibe. Did I just tell you this week my favorite holiday is Halloween? It's coming up, folks. It's September. That means it's right around the corner.
It fall, like September, October, even November. Yeah, Halloween, Thanksgiving. That's like my favorite time of the year, like hands down. It's just, I don't know. It's so nice. The changes is just great.
Let's hear it for the seasons. No. Okay. So I'm going to just, now that this album's out, I was going to give you my 3 favorite Garden albums. And so number 4, I'm going to give you number 4 because it's bumped off now. But Haha, I love it because there's like 17 unique songs, but they all have like kind of the same vibe and sound to it. And I like that about the Garden because they kind of create like a cohesive sound through the entire album. Because even though they're very experimental, they kind of weave that entire experimental side into every song, so it's like a cohesive album. And then this album, Horseshit on Route 66, probably number 3. Mirror Might Steal Your Charm from 2016 is number 2, and it kind of doesn't count, but it does. You Want the Scoop, which was an EP. It's only like 17 minutes, but that's my favorite Garden albums.
Yeah, I guess if I were to take out like only their albums and not include the EP, I think, oh gosh, it'd be tough. I might, this one has the highest rating. It might be my favorite. This may change, but I think it's my favorite album of theirs. My second would probably be Mirror Might Steal Your Charm. Third would honestly be, I guess if You Want the Scoop was included, I'd put that at number 3, and then Kiss My Super Bowl Ring, and then Haha. But I also still really like Haha. It's funny, Haha. Out of their solo work, do you have a favorite? Do you prefer Puzzle or Enjoy?
I think my take has always been that, well, okay, so I'll say this. I did rank all 3. I'm not even going to read them. I will tell you that I like Puzzle more, but I think Another Word for Joy by Enjoy is probably the best of all their solo stuff.
I can't even like add anything to that because that's exactly how I feel. I might like Tighten the Reins a little bit more than Another Word for Joy, but both of those albums are really good. But yes, I would value Another Word for Joy over most of Puzzle's work because yeah, it is a really good album.
Tighten the Reins is 3 for me. I might as well just read this because this is the Garden segment.
Yeah.
Anybody that listens to the Garden and finds this is going to be like, wow, they're actually having discussion about, because there's not a lot. There's not even reviews. Like I didn't even see a review. I Googled like a review for it and nothing even came up.
They put it on their Instagram page. That's the only way I found it.
But I like Tighten the Reins. And then second, I like, is it Laying in the Sand? That's what I wrote. But was it Lying in the Sand?
From Puzzle?
Yeah. And then Exhale. But Laying in the Sand, so like some of their albums have more sentimental value. Like Haha is off the top 3 now, but that was the first album I was introduced to. So that's probably the one I've listened to the most of the Garden. And then Laying in the Sand I've listened to a lot, and I like More Sentimental Value, but I like Exhale. I think it's the best for Puzzle. So
yeah, I think Tighten the Reins is my favorite. I'm trying to think of the other ones. He had a new one that came out, I think in 2020. I enjoyed that one. I listened to Exhale, but I don't really remember what that sounded like, to be quite honest with you. What's the one where, Soaring? That's another popular one. I liked that one, but I don't know. Yeah, people who are going through, they're going to find this podcast. They're going to find we're talking about the Garden. They're going to be like, oh, wow, that's so cool. Then they're going to be like, what? The rest of this podcast is just racist. What the heck?
Yeah, it will ruin that for them. But
Sorry,
just listen to this one segment. See,
Yeah.
the idea is if we talk about enough stuff, we'll get an audience here. And the Garden has a huge audience. They're huge.
They do. How many Spotify monthly listeners do they have? I think it's actually around 1 million. It's not.
I don't know. This is one of these things that I've always wished I could get like advanced stats on, just straight to my brain or somewhere. And access them. I would love to know how many. They have 960,000 monthly listeners. I would love to know like how many monthly listeners a band or a group had when I like discovered it, and then like when I found it, because they had to have been under 100,000 or something. I mean, they really didn't even have that many. The Garden itself didn't have very many releases when I first found it. So
when did you first find them?
it was in 2016. So that
Would have been just like when Haha was out.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the music videos. Have you watched a lot of their music videos?
I have watched a handful of their music videos, yes. I did watch the new one, the Orange County Punk Rock Legend. I really liked that one. But like you were saying, I like the clowns, the jesters, how they're very prominent in a handful of them. I also really like, I think I Saw an Angel is like their most popular, even though that's Puzzle. I like that music video too. And then the Lounge Thoughts, that was a recent single from Enjoy that I really liked.
I don't think I've seen that yet. I like Call This Number Now. I think it's very funny music video and a funny song. And then Thy Mission with Mac DeMarco. That one is like all-time music video ever. It's just very funny. Basically, if you haven't seen it, it's just like a parody of like tabloid TV, of like the Jerry Springer Show kind of thing. And Mac DeMarco's in it. And it's just, it's a great collab. So I love that song. Love that music video.
Yeah, it's a freaky music video too. It's like I don't know. It gets weird without getting like too weird. I feel like some bands like MGMT, they try to be weird, but they just like go way too far where it's like, I don't know, you clearly just like took psychedelics and wrote stuff down and then committed yourself to whatever you wrote down and put it in your music video. You fucking I fucking hate MGMT.
Dude, we don't want to offend people with a lot of crossover. There's got to be a lot of people that were up with us up to this point, and then now they're going to be like, you don't like. Also, do they pronounce it management? Because that's what it's short for.
I don't think they do. Everyone that I know has said MGMT.
I've always said MGMT, but I've never asked anybody.
FAGT is what I call them.
I don't dislike MGMT. So if you were thinking about closing out of this podcast because Steve over here,
and I guess let me elaborate.
MGMT.
I need to elaborate. I think I have their recent album at like a 4 or something. I like their music, but as people they suck because their big comeback. They weren't going to make a comeback if it wasn't for Ariel Pink. He did a lot of work on that album. And then after the Capitol debacle, they just like threw him, they just pretended like they didn't know who he was. And so they can go suck a dick for that. But other than that, their music is good.
Back to the Garden.
Yeah.
Fuck them, but I still like their music.
The Garden.
No, not fuck the Garden. Yeah, so I love them. I like the Vada Vada stuff. I think it's like a funny kind of parody of like Dada, which is always funny to say because it's Dada. Dada.
Mama.
Dada. So it's funny because they're like, to me, they're like a true punk band. Mm-hmm. And like now punk music got like, there really hasn't been like a lot of punk music since like the 90s. And a lot of it was like either they became like commercialized, like a Green Day, which I'm not saying I liked before, but like very commercialized, or they just kind of die out, or I don't know. So it's probably been like underground, but punk has just been very like
stale.
There's way more emphasis in our culture on the mainstream music. Like everyone seems to listen to that. So normies maybe won't like the Garden.
Right.
And then I like obviously the avant-garde element, which is maybe what makes them less palatable to the general public, but I don't know. I didn't think it was really that hard to get used to if you're not used to that. Like if you only listen to mainstream music. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think especially this new album. I don't know. I mean, actually, I think all their albums. I mean, it's not like early Animal Collective where it's like, oh, you have to sit through a 13-minute song that's actually not a song, it's just noises. I mean, the songs are easy to listen to. But yeah, I guess I get what you mean where some of the avant-garde elements could, throw some people off and make it to where they don't want to listen to the whole thing. But I mean, the thing I just like about them the most is that you just don't really know what sound they're going to make next. Like I said, it really just feels like they just do what they do, and if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. There's no like stupid, I don't know. I really tried to blah 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 channel my inner happiness on that. You know what I mean? It's like I feel like when they're working, they just here's what I have. Okay, here's what I have. Okay, that's the album. Okay, cool. Here we go. We're done. You know what I mean? It's not like this like what statement are we making?
Yeah, and I feel like even when you hear like a mainstream artist or something that says, oh, this was some like important bullshit to me, like you can't really tell. And I feel like with The Garden, you can always kind of tell that they're being like authentic to whatever they're interested in. Like, yeah, they're clearly like there are new sounds like from album to album, especially like on their solo stuff when they were making like rapid fire albums one after another. They always like introduce new sounds or whatever. Like maybe they got like a new bass or something and there's like new wobbly wobble sound, right? That's a music term. And they always introduce that stuff. So you can tell there's like some interest or whatever. And I feel like also too, because they release so much music, you can kind of see their evolution. Yeah. More than you can with like a regular artist that releases one album every 3 years or whatever it is.
And I think the other part to that too is because they started making music when they were so young. So then now that they've gotten much older, you can kind of see how they've aged throughout and just how their sound has developed. And I don't know. Yeah, they're just just a really good band. I think they've got to be like, I mean, I know not in popularity, but like top like 10 best artists right now.
My all-time favorite thing of or whatever is just them with Kyle MacLachlan in that like Uggs photo shoot or whatever.
I've not seen that. I knew they were models, but
yeah, the photo with Kyle MacLachlan's hilarious, which if you don't know who Kyle MacLachlan is, you're living under a rock.
Get the F out of here.
He's Dale Cooper from Twin Peaks. So now I have to show Steve this photo because it's a great photo.
That is so cool.
I mean, that's like a great, like they for sure have watched Twin Peaks probably.
Yeah. That is so funny. I love that. That's awesome. Oh my gosh. Closing remarks on The Garden?
No, I think we beat it to death. I think that was pretty good. So yeah. I'm excited to see them in concert, and it'll be a lot of fun.
I'm excited too. All right, on to the next thing. We've got